Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Pro Wrestling Logic YouTube channel and the June 21st, 1980 edition of All Star Wrestling Review. And we are moving into the midpoint, obviously, of 1980. We've got literally hundreds of these available. We've also got a Cool Desire 4 moving into 1981 and some of 1982. I wish 83 through 85 was complete. I'm a completist, so it's hard for me to get into something and then watch it disappear. Obviously, Peacock Network having 17,000 hours or some crazy amount like that of pro wrestling content. Although, if you eliminated all the video packages, I really wonder, especially in the last 20 years, how much content there actually is. If you eliminate rerun video packaging, I bet you're going to shave several thousand hours off of the content. Anyway, we kind of move into the summer of 1980. And again, that is an amazing time to be a fan. And without a doubt, 41 years ago at this point, but the wrestling is still phenomenal in comparison to what's out there today. Anyway, we move forward, and hosted by Vince McMahon, Bruno Sammartino. Ivan Putski returns. Jose Estrada, 628, with the Polish Hammer. Putski, obviously, you were victor here. Not a big surprise there. Ivan Putski, former tag team champion, multi-time, and also kind of a guy who, for the next couple of years, is, I wouldn't say super influential, but he's here, and he's valuable in the way of kind of that run, I guess you'd say. Needless to say, that's kind of, he cranks up on his adversary's head with the side headlock, and Putski still remains in some semblance of control. At least he is comfortable with thinking so. Anyway, hard shots by Putski, firing back on his adversary. Very punch kick basis, but he's still over hugely with the crowd here in the area, and without a doubt, he is certainly a guy who is satisfied with what's going on, going forward, coming forward out of that, and leap forward by his adversary. Doesn't get everything he wants on it, but gets enough. We kind of see, some nature of that and some tie-ups along the way, bear hugs by the adversary, but a Polish hammer later, and just under 7 minutes as mentioned. Polish power Ivan Putski is victorious here after being gone for several months, probably an excursion to another territory, at least for a little while. Vince J. McMahon, or the what people would call senior, known for doing that. Pedro Morales defeats Moose Monroe via submission 631 with a Boston Crab. Pedro almost on every week of these shows, it appears, and being treated as a guy who really is, in that line for a major run, and obviously ends up becoming Intercontinental Champion, becoming Tag Team Champion, and all of that. But it's not necessarily something that for sure is there, and it is what it is as far as match quality is concerned. The crowd behind it, so obviously they continue to push it. A lot of people would be anti-Bruno coming back, but I've learned to enjoy Bruno. Pedro, I'm not there with yet, but Bruno, I certainly have. Have seen some good Pedro matches, but it's usually a guy like Morocco that brings it out of him. I think Morocco is one of the few guys that I ought to think is there. Of course, Pedro at this point been around since the 1960s, so, nearly 20 years in wrestling at this point might have something to do with it. Hammerlocks and go behinds on Monroe. Monroe, a guy who never really did understand why he didn't go further just on the basis of his look and size. Arm drags, arm bars, and cinching up on the arm by Pedro. Pedro tries to get some sort of thing going his way. Monroe manages to take and execute a couple of punches, and again, Pedro posts the Boston Crab victory. allowed to address his fans and the chances that he wishes he had. Little bit of a heel tendency there, ever so much, if we were looking at from today's standards, but it's more frustration that fans can emphasize with a babyface in 1980. So interesting how human nature has changed a little bit too. Ken Patera with the Grand Wizard defeating Frankie Williams via submission, 7:49 with a swinging full Nelson. Why Frankie Williams needs to be in there for 8 minutes is anybody's guess, probably just to fill television time, but needless to say, Ken Patera, your Intercontinental Champion, in a red sequined robe, having Patera and the mock Olympic rings on the back, of course, with the Grand Wizard, and you know, Patera using his strength, but also using finesse, cranks on a headlock and front face lock for several minutes here. Not exactly going to be, a high spot fest, but doesn't need to be. Your Intercontinental Champion is very happy with his run, as it were, hard shots to the midsection there, and ultimately we see, um, you know, the the fighting by Williams of attempted um, the attempted full Nelson, but finally a suplex leads to a victory. Also, then we see Fred Blassie's new man, the Hangman, coming in. Not necessarily sure that I understand the purpose of the Hangman. Hangman, kind of a bit of a brawler, really basic talent, punch kick style. Blassie bringing him in. Maybe he's got, kind of that Bobby Duncombe Jr. sort of thing. Not familiar with a lot of his stuff from the time period, so really basic thing. He does come in with a noose, and so that's a little bit of extra weaponry, a little bit of extra intrigue. Blassie, in a post-match interview, basically says that the noose does have a purpose. Hangman, kind of hanging him over with a hangman's backbreaker and hanging him across the shoulders, kind of trying to get as much heel heat as he possibly can. Hangman looks to be unstoppable, and Blassie is perfectly okay with that. The close of the program on this particular day amounts to a 2-on-1 handicap match. Hulk Hogan, once again managed by Fred Blassie, against Fred Mazzaro and Angelo Gomez. Handicap match 302, pinning Gomez with a lariat in the process. Hogan doing a lot of, test of strength type stuff, shrugging him off, body slams, and then again that lariat. Hogan, of course, getting ready for Andre the Giant, wanting real competition. Even the announcers starting to put over that Hogan doesn't feel the competition is sufficient for him, but we close on that note.